Welcome to Wealth and Wellness. I am your host, Eric Jetson. If you find value in this show, please like and share with other like-minded and conscious beings. This podcast is for seekers and lovers of knowledge and designed to supplement your self-development journey. If I can add value to somebody else, they can then add value to at least one more person, causing a ripple effect. We will unpack the different aspects of wealth and wellness and get perspectives from experts in their fields so you can start making better choices today. It's time to elevate with Eric Jetson.
That's the natural human in me that I'm trying to break apart, and make better. So if I was that one that sent you a text and said, oh, you know what, I'm not going to do it. You know what? Be better. It's uncomfortable to talk to somebody and tell them that we are upset with them or that we have. That's how you get better at communicating, is go through the hard. Good is on the other side of hard. All of us are still learning that.
Today's guest is a husband, father, and a senior financial advisor living in the Valley of the Sun, Phoenix, Arizona. I admire this man's eagerness to stay growing and learning and his desire to leave an abundant legacy educating others. I am excited for him to share his wisdom and get his perspective on wealth and wellness, as well as to learn about other wealth building vehicles. I have the great pleasure of introducing our guest and my friend, Porter Shumway. Porter, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me. Excited.
So let's kind of dive into your journey and figure out what got you to where you are today.
My journey is kind of interesting. As long as I can remember, my dad, owned his own business. And I remember thinking as a young kid, I don't want to do what he did. I didn't want to take it over, if you will. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be an orthodontist. I knew that my friend and I were like, let's be an orthodontist. They make good money. They seem like it's a pretty fun job. So let's be an orthodontist. And so what I forgot to do was take going to school seriously early enough on to where, that came back to bite me. He took a lot more serious than me. And so when he went to college, his first couple of years, he was getting good grades. I was just having a good time, and so my GPA was not great till I got into my major, which was fine. Anyway, long story short, I took the DAT and I did really well on the DAT. That's a dental admissions test. But my GPA came back to haunt me because I wasn't focused. Well, before I went to school to do that, I got involved in financial services. I really liked it. And I was introduced to this new world that I didn't know much about. So I worked at Charles Schwab, which was kind of fun. And then I worked at MetLife Financial and a company called World Financial Group before that. Got my securities licenses and was having a good time doing that before I decided to go back to school to be an orthodontist. Mm-hmm. When that didn't pan out, the world of dentistry, if you will, because you got to be a dentist first, I started to freak out a little bit. I'm like, well, crap, now what am I going to do? Mm-hmm. Here I've got a kid, one on the way. And so I had a friend who worked in the medical device field. And so he's like, hey, man, we make good money, try and get into this field. So I did, sold medical devices for about 8 or 9 years. And then there was something in the back of my head, like, no, there's more, and it's time to do your own thing. And so this is the long story abbreviated, a wing and a prayer, basically, where we're like, okay, here's what we'll do. We'll open up an auto and home insurance business, and then you'll go get licensed again in the financial space and freshen up, if you will. Mm-hmm. And this will be great. You'll get your auto and home book going, and that keeps things going, and it'll be awesome. So I left the corporate world. So I had to give back the company car, all the benefits, and we had maybe $20,000 in our savings that was supposed to last us for the whole year. And I had a 401k that I could tap into if I needed, which I ended up doing. Mm. So, but we burned the bridges and we said that we're not going back, and put my head down, started working hard. Anyway, that started to go out. It was a miracle that we made it the first year, a bigger miracle that we made it the second year, but I worked my butt off, and I then started getting back into what I loved, and that's the financial space. And so fast forward to about 4 years ago, I was introduced to a new concept in the world of financial planning that was similar, but yet vastly different than what I had been taught. And this is what kind of changed my entire trajectory and why I am where I am today. In the financial world, and let me be candid with you, I do all of these things. We do traditional IRA, 401k, business planning type retirement planning. But when I was introduced to this other strategy, which involved life insurance, which normally it's like, wait a second, I was a little taken back and thought, okay, I better investigate. So I did. Long story long, I was like, this is revolution. This is the evolution of financial planning. And so once I got behind the math of all of this, everything took off. And now I'm more successful than I have ever been in my life. I make more money than I ever did at those medical device companies, which I found that, and there's nothing wrong with it. You know, I have a friend who still works there and he absolutely loves it, and that's fine. Everybody's wired differently, right? Mm-hmm. But for me, I found that I was only worth what they were telling me I was worth, mm-hmm. you know? And once I got free of that for myself, I realized that I'm worth infinitely more. And some people like me, it takes getting free of all that to see that. And other people, they understand their worth while still working for somebody else, and that's fine. Anyway, so that's how I ended up where I am now. And I just all about abundant thinking, recognizing that where much is given, much is required. And so because I have been given much, I too must give.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, I'm with you on abundance, and we'll unpack some of those specifics and dive into the financial world in a bit. But let's rewind to your upbringing a little bit. What was the conversation around wealth and money in your household growing up?
So that's the irony, is that in my house, that abundant thinking was constantly preached. Mm-hmm. If we have faith and we work our tails off, we can have whatever we want. That was always taught in my house from the day I was born. So the irony that I was then trapped in a world where I was locked into a set amount of earnings is not wasted on me now. But so as children, we were all taught. We would have money budgeting meetings as a family. Okay, well, how are you going to earn money? What are ways that you can earn money? We would brainstorm with our parents. And I was the second to youngest out of 6 kids, and 7, sorry. And I was probably a little softer than my oldest siblings. They were required to pay for, everything. And so because of that, it was ingrained in us. You work, you get whatever you want. Money was always there for the taking.
How would you personally describe wealth now, now having the understanding that you do in the experience?
It's not monetary, not for me anymore. Wealth it goes far beyond it. Money is just part of the equation. Money in and of itself, I believe, is not bad. In fact, I'm very religious. I believe in a higher power, in God, and I believe that God wants us all to have everything, but we are the problem, right? And it's that love of it that cankers us and makes things bad. And so for me, wealth now is freedom. It's the ability to spend time with my family, as well as not stress about where's the next bill or where's the next paycheck, if you will, coming from. For me, it doesn't matter the dollar amount. If I feel good and secure in my situation, then I feel wealthy. Wealth is not a status.
So now on the flip side, there's a term that isn't really talked about much these days, and that's wellness. Mm-hmm. And I think wealth can certainly be a component of wellness, but how would you describe wellness in your own words?
Yeah, you're right. I think when we think in terms of total wellness, wealth, I believe, has to come into play. If I'm completely well, that means I've got my mind, body, spirit, temporal part of my life all in order, and I'm well. So for me, when I think of wellness, it's a holistic thought. that total wellness for me is I'm at peace mentally. My physicality is where I want it to be. And this is, to me, is the beautiful part of this journey, is that very few people that we know have total wellness, right? They might have wellness in health, but they might have crap relations, or they might have wellness in relations and they're physically a disaster. We're always constantly striving for betterment. So wellness is really just a destination, if you will, total wellness of mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah, I agree. And it's something that, I grew up, playing sports. So I was just into, exercise and eating right. And then I kind of slowly saw over the years, at least in the educational system, like nutrition was kind of falling out of education. Like I learned in science, there was like kind of, it would go with anatomy and like kind of nutrition. And then like you see the foods at school. It's just, we grew up in a very processed time, and it was convenience. And I feel like wellness has been put on the back burner. And my next question to you is, how do you feel as a father with kids in various grades about the current education system? And what's something that you'd like to see implemented or changed in that system when it comes to either a financial standpoint or a wellness standpoint?
Well, let me start with the financial and the wellness side of things. Financially, it's an absolute travesty that financial wellness and preparation is not taught, at least at a high level, in school. It ought to. We all took economics and we took world government and US government. Those are required. But when we're taking economics in high school, very few of us really give a crap about what we're seeing. We're like, oh, we've got to pick some stocks. That's part of our assignment, and we got to watch these stocks. We don't have a clue what we're doing because we're really not being taught. What we need to be being taught is all about compound interest. How do I get it? What is it? How does it work? We need to be taught proper budgeting. There's a Saturday Night Live skit that says, it's with Steve Martin, and it's a commercial. It's like, here, I've got this solution for your debt problems. It's called, if you don't have the money, don't spend it, and Steve Martin's like, wait a second. So what if I see this car and I really want it? Shouldn't I buy it? Do you have the money? No, then no. It's as stupid and simple as that, but we live in this world. Another thing we're not taught now, we live in this world where we think we should have what our parents have the second we graduate college, or the second we graduate high school, or as soon as we get a job. It's this entitlement, if you will, that we deserve what it took other people years to have. And the reason that we have that is because of what we see every day on social media and what we see on the TV. In school, it needs to be drilled into our kids' minds, and at home. We're not, what's the word I'm looking for?
Exempt,
that's it. We're not exempt from teaching. In fact, it's probably more important.
We're primary educators, in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah. So we need to be teaching proper budgeting. We need to be teaching about compound interest and how to get it. What are our different things? We need to be teaching about investing. Yes, we pick stocks in these economics classes, but we need to be teaching what happens when we put our money in here and when we take it out. It needs to be an entire class dedicated to it. And we're still going to get half the people who don't pay attention and don't care. But it just needs to be drilled in, even maybe younger than high school, junior high. I remember I was in Boy Scouts as a kid growing up, and one of the merit badges that we had to do was called personal finance. And for a month or two, every single day, I had to write down what I spent my money on. And as a 12-year-old boy, you'd be surprised at what kind of an influence that had on how I would spend, So these are things that I think are lacking in school. Wellness is absolutely getting squished under the guise of we need to over homework and over study and all this stuff. I think our brains absorb more when we are well, if you will, when we are at peace with who we are, when we are in situations to be healthy mentally and physically. When we're in those situations, we are then more able to absorb, in my opinion. And so in schools, it's kind of like there's this social pressure, at least here in Arizona, or I'd say in the schools around the country, but where it's like, we've got to squeeze in these particular things, and when we're forcing this upon the kids, not that there's anything wrong with memorizing stuff. I think that's healthy for our brains and stuff like that. I mean, there's lots of problems with the educational system. It's better than doing nothing at this point. But as far as wellness, there's no focus on it, and there's zero focus on financial wellness at a young age. And then we get all these kids that graduate college and don't know what the hell they're doing. It's like they're spending. I did it, and I was raised in a good family. It's kind of like, well, I want these types of things or whatever. And I never got into massive debt or anything like that.
I did it too. And because there was a lack of conversation and education about financially planning for your life. Yeah. I mean, you graduate college at 22, 23, whatever. And now you're young 20. And like, there is a lot of societal pressure out there. It's very easy to get, credit lines and, try to keep up with the Joneses. And you almost start with your feet tied, and
Yeah.
And for those, I'm talking to myself here, like you graduate college and now you get to start paying off those student loans, if you have them. And without that proper planning, yeah, if I would have known about compound interest, and when I started earning income at 16, maybe by 23, I'd be in a better spot and I wouldn't be so stressed out about these student loans and whatnot. So on that, as if I'm someone that is newly starting to generate income, which I believe that the age has gotten later and later. I feel like, so I started working at the day I turned 16. My dad was like, get your butt down to that restaurant, start busting tables or washing dishes, and because at 16, I was like, oh, I should be coming into a car here pretty soon. And he's like, well, you don't just get the car when you're 16, we'll see what finances we have available. And, that'll be coming out of your pocket. And if you'd like to go see those friends of yours, you're going to have to, pay for the car insurance, and the car takes gas too. And that was, gosh, back in like 07, 08, gas was, $5 a gallon then. So it taught me a lot about how money worked, and how everything costs money. If I wanted to go to the movies, man, I got to have enough to get me there, get me home, pay for the movie ticket. If I'm going to have a snack, I better bring my own. Let me ask you, as we're evolving in the financial world and with our currency, we had the privilege to go to the movies with cash in our pocket, and it's like, hey, I got $50 and I could feel it going out. And I knew how, I could budget a little bit better, but now we got it on the card, and, we got a debit card or a credit card, and we may know the credit limit or we may not. And sometimes that's even worse. It's like, oh, I've got this much to spend. It's like, well, so how do you teach your kids and educate them to budget? And what's the conversation around money and currency in your household?
Yeah. So we don't talk about currency, although my kids do have debit cards now, and it's all a matter of convenience. I mean, everything's faster, more convenient. We don't have to worry about losing cash, but we do teach our kids that as soon as they get paid, we have 10% that comes out, and that goes to God. 10% goes to themselves, and then they have the rest that they can do with as they would like, unless they're trying to buy something that takes up the majority of what they already have saved. Like, you guys have to understand, you can't get in this mindset that, what happens then when you are a grown-up and you're making money and you're spending everything that you make, even after paying yourself 10%. And the Lord 10%. You can't do that. You have to actually stock something away so that what happens if crap hits the fan. So we do talk a lot about that. See, I think what's happening, at least in my mind, for a long time, there is that thought of you don't feel it when it's on a card, and you don't recognize how much you've accrued in that payment. But for me, the older I've gotten and the more I've made those credit card payments or whatever, and to be clear, I'm in favor of credit cards to build credit, to use for points, to do whatever, but we pay them off at the end of every month and always have. Anyway, but now, even when I use the card, I feel it as if I've given cash, because I follow the trail in my head. This is going to come out as of my cash. It's not free money. And we teach our kids that although we could always do better. I always feel like I could do better.
Well, that's evidence of a winner right there. Yeah, you can always do better. There's always something to learn from an experience, and you either win or you learn. You only lose if you don't learn.
Yeah.
So that's cool because my kids are a lot younger than yours. So that's a conversation that I'll have to figure out, and get on the same page with my wife about. And it's like, hey, what do we want the conversation about money to be like? And yeah, her and I have like very different upbringings, and the conversation around money was weirdly similar and different in their own respects, but it's all about the household. And we know our kids, they're just sponges. They don't even have a conscious mind until they're 7, and by that time they're almost programmed. They're conditioned. So it is amazing. Even my son, barely turned 3 last week, and he just mimics, and he's like a mini me. It's amazing. I'm like, okay, I need to be just better. I need to be more conscious, more aware, and be intentional.
Yeah, intentional. That's huge. If I could give any advice, on June 3rd, I will have been married 22 years. So if I can share anything, it's that if you guys can establish now and not just for your kids, for the two of you, if you haven't already, or anybody listening, establish a cohesive money plan together, give and take, if you will, like, don't one of you just dominate the money conversation, but at the same time make smart decisions, and then come to this understanding, like, okay, we're going to, if you're religious, you pay your 10% or whatever. If you, whatever the case may be, here's the amount we're going to live on, or the percentage. Make it a percentage based. In my opinion, if we could all just understand 10% going to our future selves is a minimum. If you don't establish that at the beginning of your relationship, then it'll never happen, and you'll be 50 years old and you'll have no retirement, and you'll think, man, I'm screwed. But now I've got all this, no kids at home, so I'm going to save. If that hasn't been set up early, it will not happen. Not that it can't, but generally what I've seen is it doesn't happen. So establish the guideline. And I'm saying this from somebody who, we had a certain guideline, but as things evolve, as money comes in and money goes out, those, if they're not set in stone, they start to waffle a little bit, right? And you are like, well, but we need this and that. No, there needs to be some things that are hard and fast agreements between the two of you. It's like, you know what? No matter what, like for us, 10% goes to God. That's never been in question. When we were living in a basement apartment and we were butt poor, 10% of everything we made has always gone to God. And then 10% to ourselves, right? That was never solid for us. And so we would save, sometimes more than 10%. Mm-hmm. And then for years, no 10%, And so if you can just plan on at least living on, or 90%, or 80%, depending on whatever, and early on, right from the get-go, and those are hard and fast, then all of your decisions are based around that. Your spending decisions, you just know that 20% is not even part of your equation. Then you'll end up being just fine. We are adaptable as human beings. We end up, I got enough to go out to eat, have a burger with my wife, go to a movie every once in a while. Great. I can't do it every single weekend or twice a week. Okay, it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. We have to get over ourselves and just recognize, what does abundance look like for me? Is it my needs are met and I'm content? That's all I'm saying. Make a plan at the beginning and make certain things hard and fast rules that are unbreakable. And you will find yourself in 25 years in a way better position than most people.
I like that. It sounds like, you create the plan based on what you want the outcome to be, and that was a conversation, you and your wife and family had to have, what do we want our future life to look like? What are we investing in? And that's important. And I'm sure what you want is a culmination of your goals and what your idea of wealth is, and you might really love the movies and it's a sacrifice not to be able to go twice a month or whatever it is right now, but maybe you ultimately want to have your own movie theater, where you can go every day. Wealth is subjective, and everyone's got a different perspective on it. A lot of it has to do with our pre-programming and conditioning, but for me, I always wanted to associate myself with people that were more knowledgeable and smarter in all aspects of life, whether it's physical fitness, in the spiritual sense or mindset. So I appreciate our friendship and, learning from you. And I kind of want to dive into what you're doing now, how you got to a senior financial advisor, what that looks like, and also some vehicles that you've implemented and strategies to build wealth for you and your family.
Yeah, so I think one of the key ingredients to getting where I am today was recognizing what keeps us down, if you will, financially, physically, whatever. It's fear. And fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of whatever, oftentimes cripples us and keeps us from reaching what we could. Not everybody's going to be Michael Jordan. Not everybody's going to be Oprah Winfrey. Not everybody's going to be these behemoth success stories in that way. But we don't have to be, right? We don't have to be. So for me, when I realized that if I'm scared, then what am I doing? I'm manifesting my future. If I'm afraid that money's going to be tight, or I'm nervous I'm going to be able to make that bill, what do I think is actually going to happen? Money's going to be tight and it's going to be hard to make that bill. Just mark it down. It will happen that way. When I left the corporate world, because for whatever reason, I had a limited mindset when I was in the corporate world. I mean, I'm a big dreamer. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to make this much money here and whatever. But there were these constructs all around me that were keeping me in, and I was not able to get out of my own head until I was faced with this reality of either you swim or you're going to sink. This time it's real. It's not this future pretend thought. It's you have to start working like your family and your life physically and literally depends on it. And so I had to face my fear, right? And I think we all have some people are just, you're like, wow, how do you do it? How are you so amazing? I think it does them a disservice for us to not recognize that they had to go through something to get there. And one of the things that I've learned is that all of us have crap in our lives. All of us. There's not one person that you're going to meet that hasn't had something hard that they've had to go through. Monty Williams, the Phoenix Suns head coach. I don't even want to talk about the Suns right now, but he says, everything good that we want is on the other side of hard. So when I was faced with that, it was sink or swim. And so I started working my tail off. I started learning. I started studying. I started doing the math. I started breaking things down. And do I know everything? No. I have so much more that I can learn and that I need to learn. There are plenty of people, like sometimes I struggle with imposter syndrome because I'm just like, I'm sure there's a million other people way better than me and whatever. And that's the kind of thinking that will manifest itself and it's bad. And so I regularly have to correct that and say, no, you're the best at what you do, and I believe that, but I have much more to learn. And so that's okay. So I got to where I am today because of that mindset. It's the, you know what, I'm awesome. And there's nobody that's going to be better than me at relating with my clients, or nobody's going to be better than me at helping them see what they need to see, opening their mind. Do I have all the answers? No. But do I have answers that are going to be really good for them and get them where they want to go? Absolutely. I absolutely do. And I believe that. And so as a byproduct of that, I am trusted more and more and more with more and more people. I get referrals all over the place every day. And therefore, now I've merged into this new company as an owner and senior advisor. And it's like, well, of course I did. That's what happens, and now we're going to go to the next level. What does the next level look like? It's as big as I want it to be. And I don't need to be Oprah, but I'll be content with however big I feel like I want to be. You know what I mean? So
yeah, there's only one Porter Shumway. No one else can be it other than you. So
that's right.
That's inspiring, man. Yeah. Someone made an analogy recently. It was like so simple. It's like a flower isn't trying to be a rock. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like, don't be something you're not, essentially.
Comparison kills us. right? There's fear, but then we compare ourselves, our successes, like, oh yeah, you're all fired up about how successful you've been on something, and then you look and you're like, oh, I don't have 1 million followers on TikTok like that person, so maybe I'm not as successful. Bullcrap. No, you're successful, but there are different levels. I don't need to be that person to be successful. My value isn't tied to what somebody else's success is. And as humans, we constantly are comparing our worst traits with their best traits. So we've got to be better about that and recognize that we are more than somebody else's successes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we got to almost have some thicker skin, and like it's a combination of things that we've kind of talked about, but I think you really hit the nail on the head on preparation and seeing a bigger picture view. And it's hard. It's hard when you're 16 and start generating income, or when you graduate college and get your first job and start generating income, but you also have a social group and, family responsibilities and stuff. So
question for you, sorry to interject there.
Yeah.
So at 16, what's the most important thing to us? We have to ask ourselves. So at 16, for me, it was my friends. It was socializing. I had another friend of mine, though. What was important to him was what he said out of his mouth. He followed through it. Like for me, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have all this money. I want all this money. And when I was 16, I didn't do anything to do it, to get it. I would do a job here or a job there. Then my dad hired me to be the janitor at his shop, whatever. That's all well and good, but my friend who's like, well, I really want a lot of money. Oh, okay. So you know what he did? Grabbed his lawnmower and went door to door. And then by the time he was a senior in high school, was making so much money that he bought his own brand new truck. He had 3 lawnmowers. Wow. The guy now is one of the largest landscaping companies in the East Valley. He makes over $1 million a year landscaping. And so that's why I'm like, don't you dare, if you enjoy doing something, don't you dare say, well, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, I'm just a landscaper. Bro, like it does not matter. And my point in all this is like, if we want something, then go get it. If you're just going to talk about it, then don't complain when you don't have it. Talk is cheap, as they say.
Yes. And too many people are complaining about the results they don't have from the work that they didn't do. Yes. And it is silly. And accountability has been a principle that I've instilled as a pillar in my lifestyle in every aspect. Hey, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, because back in the day, before cell phones, before contracts, your word is good, is set in stone. If I could shake your hand and look you in the eye and say, hey, we got a deal. But now it's very easy to back out of something via text. Oh yeah, something came up, or, oh, I missed the calendar thing, or whatever it is, we all have hectic lives, but that's almost, it's not our fault, but if it continues to be that way, it is our fault.
Right. If anybody who's hearing this, like, here's something like what you just said too, it doesn't mean we also can't change. Like if I was that guy, and I have been, and I am that guy in different areas of my life where I talk and I get all excited and I don't follow through on some of it. That's the natural human in me that I'm trying to break apart, and make better. So if I was that one that sent you a text and said, oh, you know what, I'm not going to do it. You know what? Be better. It's uncomfortable to talk to somebody and tell them that we are upset with them, or that we have. That's how you get better at communicating, is go through the hard. Good is on the other side of hard. All of us are still learning that. I don't care who it is. Coach JV, 1 million followers on TikTok. I promise you, he's still got stuff he's working on. And just think of them; they're still working on stuff. So we can be better.
Absolutely. And JV talks about programming your subconscious mind all the time. And if we do something repeatedly, if we keep following through on what we say we're going to do, we're going to now believe that we're an accountable person. And now we don't have to think about it. It's like autopilot. We just do what we say we're going to do. All right. Well, hey, you're a senior financial advisor. Tell me some strategies. In particular, I want to hear more about this life insurance strategy that you've got that incorporates compound interest. Give me a breakdown, and why would somebody want to start a program like that for themselves, and when and how can they get involved?
So what we're doing is we found that with life insurance, you get a lot of features that you have with your traditional investments that people don't understand. They don't know. When people hear life insurance, they think, I don't need life insurance, or I don't want life insurance. And if we're talking about this product that I'm about to talk to you about, I would say you're right, because we are not using this for life insurance. Life insurance just happens to be a feature as part of the product. So what we're doing is we're taking a life insurance contract, more specifically an indexed universal life insurance contract. Just as a quick 50,000 foot overview of life insurance, you have two main types. You've got term, and term life insurance just simply means you are paying for this life insurance for a specified term of time, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. When that term is over, the life insurance is no more, it's gone. Then you've got cash value life insurance, which means it's permanent. As long as you make your monthly contribution or premium payment, then when you die, it will be there and your family's protected. But as a secondary benefit of this cash value, there is cash that starts to accumulate. So a portion of the premium that you're paying goes towards cash, and it can grow a little bit over time. And a lot of life insurance agents will sell it like, here, you're protecting your family, so it's going to be here when you die. That's what you're after, right? Yes. Well, as a byproduct of that, when you're 65 years old, you could actually take some of that cash that has been accumulating and use it as some supplemental income that you need for your retirement. So that's fine. And it's a wonderful product that way if you know that you're getting it for life insurance purposes. But what people don't realize is that it also can be used as an income replacement tool if we get the least amount of life insurance. So there are two. We use an index universal life. There's whole life. Whole life, it doesn't work for what we're trying to do. So for index universal life, the reason we use that is because upfront it's the least expensive, which it gives us the most amount of money working for us for compounding, and it gives us higher growth potential. So all of those three things combine, and leverageability, cheaper leverageability. And for those who might be wondering, what do I mean by that, is if I go to a bank and I buy a car, right? They lend me their money and I give them essentially my car as collateral. I'm going to leverage their money to buy myself a car. I'm going to, take a HELOC on my house. I'm going to leverage their money, go invest it in something, and use my equity as collateral, stuff like that. So inside of these plans, we can do that. We can use our cash as collateral, leverage the life insurance company money, and make ourselves more money. So the idea in these policies is that we are going to not care about the life insurance. So generally, when people set up these plans, it's not enough life insurance for their needs. So then we can get a term policy, which is inexpensive, and now it fills their life insurance need for the family. So then what we do is they're no longer called payments, because a payment disappears. If I make a car payment, that's money of mine that now it's gone. Mm-hmm. These are deposits, because this money is going to be accessible. It's liquid. It's going to grow tax deferred. It's going to have the ability to grow at market returns, and then we're going to be able to leverage it. So there was an IUL, an index universal life policy. People have been doing this for a while. Well, my friend Curtis Ray, he said, well, what if I borrow money and then put it back into the plan, and then I increase the death benefit so that I keep all the tax benefits in here and it grows tax deferred and all that? Can I do that? Well, people have been borrowing money from life insurance for decades, and they reinvest it somewhere outside of the plan. And people that have also been able to borrow money from life insurance and put it back in as long as they're making some additional contributions and as long as they don't exceed the amount that they're putting in. And I know this gets kind of technical, so I'll try and make it simple. But this is the first time that, say somebody's putting in $10,000 a year. And Curtis said, well, what if I borrow $10,000 and I put it in? And so now it's as if I put $20,000 in. And the life insurance company had to think about that. He had to show them the math. And ultimately, they said that mathematically makes a lot of sense. We're going to charge you 4% to use our money, but after we lend you our money, we're charging you 4%. We don't really care what you do with it. So it's as if it's additional money going into this plan for them. But we have to increase the life insurance. Otherwise, there's something called a modified endowment contract in life insurance, where if you exceed the maximum amount allowed in that plan, all of your money becomes taxable, like a brokerage account. It just turns into a brokerage account. And so you have to have enough life insurance to keep that from happening. So anyway,
and if you leverage that money, say you borrow 10,000, you're paying 4% interest, but that's a loan that you wouldn't pay taxes on, correct?
Correct. Loans are not taxable of any kind. And the whole concept behind this is if the stock market, the S&P 500 specifically, has averaged between 6 and 8% forever, and we're borrowing money at 4%, and we're going to be averaging then somewhere between 6 and 8%. That means on the money we borrowed, we're going to be averaging between 2 and 4% earnings on somebody else's money, because we take that money and we put it back into this plan. And then our money that we put in is going to average between 6 and 8%. 6 and 8%, we'll call it 7 for easy math, is not a sexy number. It's not your 25% that you're going to hit every once in a while or higher in the market. But what we trade in home run potential, we make up for in saving ourselves from striking out. So inside of these plans, we have guaranteed floors. Specifically in this plan, it's a 0% floor. So if the stock market crashes like it is right now, your money is guaranteed not to go down because of that market crash. So if the market goes down 20%, yours stays put. So when we leverage money, the question always is, well, if I borrow money, I have to pay that back, right? Like you do with a car loan, you pay it back. If you don't, they take your car. Well, in these, there's no underwriting. You're not borrowing from a bank. You're borrowing against yourself. So the life insurance company, if I want to borrow $10,000, they're going to put a lien on $10,000 of my dollars until I either pay that back or I make enough interest that it just counters it. Well, when we take that money and we actually put it back into the plan, it satisfies that collateral in a roundabout way. Because if this is the lien they put on it, they're going to put it in this column over here, where now they're keeping track of all the money that they have a lien on. And then I send in an additional 10,000 over here, it sort of replaces it. So I put my 10,000 plus the additional 10,000. Now my money is no longer liened, if you will, but they still have their 10,000. So if I died tomorrow, they're going to take the 10,000. I never have to pay it back by law, by contract, I should say. It's not required that I pay it back because it's been collateralized. So that's the product that we're doing. And mathematically, the beautiful part about it is that it looks more like long-term compounding, what we're always all trying to get, because we don't have the big swings of the market in this, So it's going to start off slow and it's going to look like garbage in the first 3 years. You're like, where's all this compounding? But we're building this foundation and we have all this security. And what starts out at 6 to 8% turns into 8 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, 15+% at times. So that's how it works, because if I've got $100,000 of my money working in there, that's as much interest as I can make on, 10% on 100 grand. I can make 10 grand. Well, what if I had 100,000 of mine and 200,000 of life insurance company's money, and the market does 10%? I made 10,000 or a 10% return on mine, but I just made 6% on theirs because they're charging me 4, right? 6% on 200,000 is about $8,000 or $8,300, a little bit more than that. So add that to the 10,000 I made. I just made $18,300 on a $100,000 investment. So my rate of return is not 10, it's 18.3. So that's the beauty of leveraging somebody else's money. Any millionaire out there, Robert Kiyosaki, I can't think of them. There are a lot of them out there. They have used and understood leveraging, and that's why they're millionaires. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what we're doing. That's what we're shaking up the norm. There are some downsides. You have to qualify because there's life insurance. You don't have to have A+ health, but you got to be at least C+. You got to be. This goes back to that thing I was telling you about when you and your spouse get together. You've got to make it a hard and fast. These are our deposits that we're making, and nothing's getting in the way of that. If I have to go get a second job because something happened, at least for the first 2 years, if you can give us 2 solid years, we can make it work. But it just has to be this understanding, babe. This is the percentage that's going in here. So that's the second downside, if you will, is that you got to be committed. This is your future that you're after. And then the other one is the other risks involved is the market. If the market's negative and I've borrowed a bunch of money, I owe 4% on that money. It doesn't come out of my own pocket. It just basically it's a ledger transfer. So they're just going to put a lien on additional money and put it into that. But if the market's negative for 6, 7, 8 years in a row, we have problems. But not just with this. We have problems everywhere. That's Armageddon.
Definitely.
It's never happened before. But so generally, those are the main risks or hangups. Other than that, we've tried to get rid of most of the other hangups, like the stock market, those 2008s where we lose 37% of our nest egg in 1 year. We've tried to get rid of and minimize that. Fees and expenses. The goal with this plan, and again, I am a fee-based planner, for investments, and I feel completely fine about that. But this plan, long-term, will have even less fees. And then leverageability, we've tried to set up a plan that gives you the best leverageability around without some of the same risks that you have when you're, say, in real estate investing, where you could have another 2008 and the bubble burst and whatever the case may be. So these are the types of things that we've tried to mitigate. We haven't got rid of them all because it's impossible, but they are smaller. So that hence less volatility. So.
Would you categorize this product as more of a savings vehicle or investment vehicle or retirement vehicle?
I categorize it as a retirement income strategy. Our nest eggs can often be bigger in the stock market, but there's a rule, you can look this up online, called the 4% rule. It was created from the Trinity study, this all online, where some CPAs and CFPs got together and said, well, what is the safe percentage from my nest egg that I can take annually and not run the risk of running out of my nest egg before I die? 4%. So I can make $2 million. I have a $2 million nest egg, and the rule of thumb in the financial space is 80 grand. That's what you can take. 2 million, you get 80. Otherwise, you run the risk of running out of it, because you can't be as aggressive in your investments when you're in retirement. Because if you get another 2008 and now you've only got 750,000 to live another 25, 30 years, you're toast. So 4% is the rule. So for us, we could have $1 million, half the nest egg, but our foot is still firmly on the gas pedal. And so therefore, if we're getting 12+% return, then now you're living on 120,000 tax-free, 100% tax-free, mind you, versus 80,000 with a $2 million nest egg. So if we can get the same nest egg, just know you're getting a lot more income. So I would classify this as an retirement income strategy. It's not an investment because it's a life insurance contract and you're not investing it directly into the stock market. They do all the investing on their side. Your money is being taken care of by them, and life insurance companies are the most conservative entities on the planet.
Now, the traditional person is probably, say they got a job after college or whatever in corporate America and entry-level manager or whatever, and now they're offered benefits, and 401k with company match is one of those benefits. What are your feelings around contributing to the 401k, especially if there's a company match, versus starting one of these plans, as soon as possible?
Yeah, to me, there's no comparison. If the goal is income in retirement, even with a 401k match, if you had the choice to start A or B at the same exact time, this plan would absolutely produce more income. That said, the free money, that's as if you're leveraging the company's money, if you will, is not a bad thing either. So we would have to do the math, but as a rule of thumb, let's just say that they require you to put in 3% to get 3%. If that's the case, I would probably consider doing that, but no more. But if, depending on your age, like if you are older, say 40 plus, I would not do that. I would just do all into this because you need as much going into leverageability as possible. If you are 25, I absolutely would not do that because now you have time, and time is the best part of the whole compound equation. The more time you have, the less money is required to get you to the end result. So I would probably just do the life insurance strategy. But if you had to pick, maybe the best thing and you're able to do it would be the minimum contribution plus the match plus one of these. That's kind of like your gold plan, if you will.
Okay. Wow. Sounds like an amazing vehicle and something that, gosh, I know they're not teaching that in schools. So
no, they're not.
And
why do you think they're not? This is not to be too conspiracy theorist, because those other plans are government-based plans. So if you think about it, they're all run by the government. The government will dictate how much they're going to charge you on the back end and taxes. If you have a Roth IRA, okay. Rule of thumb, if you have a choice to pay taxes now versus later, pay them now when you know what they are. You know, the government has just been printing money for fun. You know, I say that tongue in cheek. I mean no offense by that, but it's really, there's no free lunch ever. And so we see the massive inflation that's happening. Pay taxes. This is like this life insurance strategy. It's post-tax money going in. My point is they don't teach this in school because the government has their hands too involved, and you know they're going to want only qualified government-sponsored plans to be taught. They're not going to teach about something that's going to keep money from them in the long run.
While we're on that, what are your thoughts on public versus private education, and what private education would you lean our audience to just checking out and doing their own research if they want their kid to be in an abundant environment that learns some of these life skills?
Yeah, I was always pro public school because I thought if we take all of the good, awesome kids out and put them in private schools, there's no positive influence there, you know, and I feel like that's kind of what's been happening. So I've always been pro public because I still think there's good education there. I don't think it's completely corrupt, and I think a lot depends on family. I think if the family is involved in the kids' education, then even at a public school, they're going to be fine. My sister, on the other hand, she homeschools her three oldest. Her youngest is in public school right now, and they've found success that way. Private or public school, I like that for my child's social development, but I understand there are other ways to get socially developed. So my opinion is I think you can be successful in a public school. We're all too distracted, and you know, I'm not the moral police, and everybody needs to figure out what works for them and their family, but I think it's important that we educate ourselves. I mean, that's all about wellness, man. We are more at peace when we are just mentally well, and if we're constantly stressed about what our kids are doing, and that doesn't go away, you know. So I still worry, and that's the natural way of things. Kids have their agency to choose, no matter what we teach them. But my point is that, you know, everybody's got to do what's right for their family. But man, if we could get a hold of some of this, like this narrative that is being fed to our kids, and help them to see that this is not a healthy narrative. Social media can be brilliant. It can be a positive thing. With everything good, there's the opposite out there, and oftentimes more of the bad. So I think that's what we are as parents nowadays, is learning how to help our kids navigate something that's inevitable for them to come across, and encourage and invite them to make decisions that aren't just negatively influenced by the masses, you know. So yeah, financially, morally, you know, yeah,
Yeah, this cell phone, this iPhone can be an amazing tool. We can use it for good or for malicious activity, whatever. And from a young age, I learned through the evolution of technology. I was like, hey, we can use this technology, leverage this technology for information, access. I can, convenience. I can listen to my music and call somebody simultaneously. I can, use it to get more knowledge and to learn, to sharpen my skill set so I can go out in the world and implement and, execute on that knowledge. And with the whole evolution of money, it's like, okay, and now it's a tool you can make money on. And that's something I got from my dad. He was a self-employed private investigator, and he would just broker information. He would get off the phone with one guy and get the information that he needed and call another guy and sell that information. And I was like, wow, he's using the telephone to make money, and send a couple of emails here and there. And I was like, okay, when cryptocurrency came out, and I was like, all right, I can be my own bank and take control of my finances and eliminate that intermediary. Like I felt way more freedom and control. And I was like, okay, I'm not gonna, consume on this thing anymore. I'm going to use it as a tool to create. Porter, I really appreciate your time, your insight. It sounds like you have created an amazing life for yourself and your family, and we're super proud of you. And we know that this is not the end.
No, just getting started.
There's no destination, there's no pinnacle, and you truly embody accountability and work ethic and delaying gratification. So we appreciate that and your knowledge of sharing the different wealth building vehicles that are available to listeners. So tell us where we can find you on social media to learn more about what we talked about here, or if you got anything exciting coming up that you want to share.
So you could find us on Bright Wealth on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, and LinkedIn for that matter. So Bright Wealth is our financial education platform. We are currently doing a video series all about the life insurance that I talked about. So it's a little feather looking logo. If you see something other than that feather looking logo, obviously, there are imitators out there. Bright Advisor is our advisory arm. And so you can go to brightadvisor.com to see us there. You can email me at porter@brightadvisor.com.
Awesome. And I'll put all those links in the description. And I look forward to talking more about compound interest and how we can educate the current generations, but the younger generations to see their life as a journey, to see their journey to wealth and wellness as something that's going to take time, but also planning and preparation. I really appreciate, once again, your time and your insight as to how we can better financially prepare for our future lives.
My pleasure.
Please like this podcast, share on your feed, and check out the link in the description for free educational resources or for business inquiries. This is the Wealth and Wellness with Eric Jetson Podcast. It's time to activate and elevate. Your journey continues.